Hello, good morning. Something about myself. So I currently I am a coach, ICF coach. I'm on the Forbes Coaches Council. I work with leaders and individuals, also business owners, who really want to excel beyond the success that they have. And it's a beautiful thing. I have the opportunity of helping people recognize the goodness that is innate in them, and then also to recognize that in others, and to create then a synergy and a collaboration in order to create beautiful things, powerful projects and programs, and really thrive their businesses forward. So that's something I love doing. Also a mediator and a group facilitator and trainer. I work in crisis intervention and communication and conflict resolution. So I wear a couple of different hats. So what I do know about women in general is that we have bought into the paradigm in which we live, and that is that we are number two, always trying to be number one. And what life has taught me, what I've been graced to learn through all the challenges I've been through, is that there is no number two and number one. Each of us bring a unique value, and the masculine feminine balance is important, and the sacredness and the value of the feminine is so needed, especially in our world today. And so I go back to, so my father had 23 cousins, and 22 were female. And he wanted sons, and he had 3 daughters. And that didn't stop him. He ended up raising us like boys. And so I grew up in this. It was a given that, well, boys are more valuable, being male is more valuable. And I really identified more with being masculine in the world until I had my first child, when I kind of recognized that I wasn't masculine, I was actually feminine. But I recognized that skewed perception of even myself, that discrimination toward myself. And so a lot of what I went through, so my dad came back from Vietnam, and at that time they didn't have the understanding of PTSD. So he brought all of the rage and the trauma that he had been through in war into our home, and I grew up in violence, emotional and physical. And so a lot of my early adulthood was in healing that and finding tools and doing trainings and getting an education as a mediator and certified as a nonviolent communication trainer, and studied with Unity and just all kinds of different things, Course in Miracles, and really to find a center within myself. And that worked. And then I had children, and realized, wow, I have no idea how to parent, because the only role models I had were my own parents, and bless them, they did the best they could, but it's certainly not something I wished for my children. So I went back again to best practices and communication and relationship and connected parenting, and really recreated myself again as a parent. And I blessed especially my son, my oldest, for helping me do that. And I imported a program into Germany. I was living in Europe at the time, to Germany, and it went into the national school system. Called Frieden Lernen, or Learning Peace. And from that program, I was asked to design a parenting program. So that was for teachers to work with students in the classroom. And I created then a parenting program, which was really my greatest learning as a parent. And I do have that program online, Parenting Success Blueprint, and my book, Connected Parent, Empowered Child, comes from that training. So that was kind of my second phase of life, if you will, of growing into parenting and understanding that if you want to do personal transformation work, be a parent. And when we approach it with the attitude of student, it's a very, very different experience. And so that's been really transformational for me, and a really rich experience. And then the kind of what moved me into my next phase is that my husband at the time had a psychotic break and really became a very different person. And after 26 years of marriage, took all of our savings. And it was tough. And the children really struggled. Their father, as they had known him, he looked like him, he smelled like him, sounded like him, but totally different person in that body. And that's challenging. Emotional, psychological, spiritual challenge. And so guiding myself and my children through that trauma, if you will, and to this country. We left Europe and came to the United States. I had to put myself back together again. That took a long time. And to help my children, right? Of course, we prioritize our children. And then, blessing of blessings, I met the man of my heart and my soul, Yule. And we when we first met, we looked at each other literally and said, "Oh, there I am." Yeah, it was really a profound experience and relationship, very similar to the writings of Rumi and Hafiz. And last March, he was killed in an accident. I mean, I thought I had been through a lot. And nothing prepared me for that. I was not able to function for quite some time, and thanks to women, my daughter being one, and 3 other women who literally carried me when I couldn't walk. And so here I am, knowing that it's not a matter of overcoming, really. It's a matter of integrating and strengthening from that. I remember one day where it occurred to me why that's important, and the distinction between overcoming and integrating. We were at the grocery store. It was, I think, my first outing, if you will, after Yule passed. And I was with my daughter, and God bless her, she was kind of like my service dog. She took me everywhere. Seriously, she just was brilliant and loving and present. And we were at a grocery store, a health food store, and in the vegetable section, and for no reason that I can identify, and that's how it's been with grief. It is something that consumes one. It comes like a wave, and you are in it. Doesn't ask, and it often doesn't have any warning. And so we were in the produce section, and it just consumed me, and I just began to sob. And she sat there, and we sat down, and I sobbed. And I recognized in that experience that giving myself to that which arises is the strength, is the process. It's like the iron that's being forged in the fire. We are molded and shaped literally to the extent to which we give ourselves to that process and trust that process. And I think that especially women who, for those of us who have gone through the birthing process, but even if not, the fact that we live and experience life and relationships the way that we do, we are familiar with the process of life. I feel that we have been trained, shamed, and taught out of trusting that and trusting ourselves in that. Mm-hmm. And so I love that you've asked that, and what comes up for me, interestingly enough, is that I have learned that from 2 men. And one of them is a Sundance chief. He's Cree Métis, in Canada. And I had the opportunity of meeting with him on a weekly basis as I interviewed him, and he taught me about his life for a book that I have agreed to write for him in his journey. And in that process, what he made very clear, and I was able, and I apparently needed the year to understand, was that men are here to serve women because we are the life givers. Men do not bring life forth. And so in a community, and I saw this again and again in the Sundance community, where there's a very distinct role distribution, not hierarchy of genders, but distribution. And in that community, and the reason that it works and the way that it works is that the tasks and the contributions that women make to the community are supported by, protected by, and served by the men. And what we have done in our Western, white, European, industrialized world and paradigm is to believe that the masculine, the powerful, the externally powerful, the analytical, the take charge, that is actually the strength of our society, and it's not. That protector, that is the supporter, and that is what is to serve actually the feminine. And so in understanding that, it somehow gave, the best way I can say it, validity to being a woman. It's like, wow, men, the masculine is here to serve the feminine. Like, that just makes so much sense, right? If you think even just in nature of the making of the nests and the woman, the female sitting on the eggs and the male going to get the food so she can then feed the young. It's like, wow, that just made so much sense to me. So that was the first cognitive understanding that I had of the value of the feminine. And it doesn't devalue the masculine, just the opposite. It weaves it together. And the other was in my relationship with Yule, who was a very balanced human in his masculine and feminine. And his first engagement with me in relating was to teach me to receive, because I didn't know how to receive, and receiving is the feminine. And I was taught, as the man, in my dad's house, he wanted boys. I can fix cars and I can build furniture and I can, do all of these things. But wow, receiving? How do you do that? It is unfortunately a struggle, because what I have found is that when I gave myself to trusting Yule, in whatever circumstances it was, he would seek to understand, what are my wishes? Whether it was for a meal or to go somewhere or to write a proposal, we worked together. Like, what was I wanting and wishing for? And then he would take that and he would guide. And he'd say, okay, this is what we're going to do. And I could let go. I didn't have to monitor or control or any of that. It's like, I just let go. And that's the receiving, and that's the trust, and that's the polarity. We need that. We need it internally and within ourselves, and then in relationship. And in society, if you look at what's going on in the world, we are vastly out of balance into the masculine, both men and women. My experience is that comes from the paradigm I spoke to earlier of number 2 and number 1. Well, the not deserving or the demurring, I'm not sure, or well, let me try again, or I could, this approaching as may I. That's a very different way of being in the world than knowing your value, like just knowing your value. And I do come back to if you birth a child or if you birth a business, that energy, that power that it comes in as and through you, when you recognize that and honor that energy, you can't not know your value. You can't. It's so palpable. It just is. What we do then, though, is we talk ourselves out of that knowing. Because, and we're not at fault for this, nobody's really at fault, because culture doesn't like that, right? I can go into rooms where I don't even say a word and people don't like me. Or women will move away from me. Because I have the sense of, I know my value. It does not make me better than anybody else, just the opposite. When I know my value, when I sit calmly in that, all I can see is your value and your beauty. And it's the courage of trusting yourself. We've been taught to not trust ourselves. It's a practice, right? And I think, when we sit together with our girlfriends or with our intimate person that we really trust, and we share something, we know we're worthy. We know. And so it's living from that place. Speaking from it, acting from that place, and not letting any static come between that knowing and who we are and how we're shining out into the world. It's like Mama Bear, right? You go to Mama Bear who's protecting her cubs. Boy, there's not a force in the world that's going to face Mama Bear. It's really, it's a little bit analytical, which is a good thing, because it gives us the opportunity to really take apart something that seems to plague us, right? And we're like, oh, I don't want to judge myself, or I shouldn't judge them. And it's just this amorphous, oh, don't judge, be nice, be good. And so what I do is really take apart the anatomy of judgment and distinguish facts which are things that can be measured, and they can be correct or incorrect, like a temperature, a shape, something, and our experience of that. And so when we just that step, just separating out the fact from our experience of it, our perception, our beliefs, and letting those two stand and knowing that our experience is valid, then we can continue on and say, okay, so what is my belief about my weight, or the last project that I delivered on, or how I spoke to my partner last night? What I said ABC, or I did 1, 2, 3. How do I feel about that? How am I perceiving that? And then we begin to work really on the nuts and bolts of our experience of the situation rather than on what actually happened, because that experience is where all our emotions lie. And we do have control there. We have impact there. And so that's what the genius of non-judgment supports people to do. But then what people do is like, oh, I can't believe I'm judging. So then we judge judgment. Just neutralize the ground and say, oh, okay, oh, this is what's going on. It gives us a lot more to work with. I think that what I would like to offer is just a very small practice, and that is, I call it the appreciation practice, is that at night, when you go to sleep, think of 3 things that you appreciate about yourself from the day, and it's not accomplishments. It's not something you did or something you gave to somebody. It may be even something as simple as, wow, I went out and sat in the sunshine instead of writing another email, right? Or I really let it sink in when Lainey said she appreciated what I said. Those moments in our day where we acknowledge ourselves, we appreciate ourselves for loving, for just loving. I would encourage everybody to do that, because we are so hard on ourselves, especially women, so critical. And when we begin to appreciate ourselves, the need falls away for others to appreciate or acknowledge or so forth. We have that richness in ourselves because we see ourselves for our beauty.